nuns taught us there are two ways through life. The way of nature and the way of grace. You have to choose which one you'll follow.
Hello and welcome back to Let's Take 5, the podcast where we take a cinema legend and highlight their excellence and range by taking 5 of their films. And this is a bonus episode.
You take 5 of their films and do what to them?
I kind of said that part already.
Yeah.
And then put it at the end by accident.
Well,
because we've been doing this for 100 episodes.
We look at 5 of their films.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm starting to crack now after 100 episodes.
I know, it's finally happened. So what did we do this episode?
So, previously last week you heard us do our wrap-up of Terrence Malick, and because we've now done 100 proper episodes, we decided to look back at this landmark and look at actually the 101 films we've covered, because we did have a combo with Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, and we did the Harrison Ford 5 not too long ago. By the way, I'm Austin Luger.
I'm Eric Martindale.
So we're just going to look at that. We decided before we came to this episode that we ranked all 101 of the films we've covered, of all the 5s, starting from when we did the Robert De Niro 5, start off, and then to the Terrence Malick 5.
Yep, and this was a fun exercise. I wanted to see how it would come out. 100 films is a lot of films, 101. So it's a lot of time spent and invested in this podcast at this point. So I thought it was worth it to me to look and see kind of where we stood, and also where we stood as a unit, as a podcast too. I thought that was interesting. Differentials between the list can sway one movie through quite a few different ranges, just because there's 2 of us that only voting on this.
Right. So we each made a list of 101 of the rank of what we think was the best, and then we combined them just based on the very simple, like, number 1 gets 101 points, number 2, 100 points.
And it's nice to say that, this is Let's Take 5's list.
Yeah.
For
the first 101 films.
For the first 101 films, which I think is cool, despite of what we may think individually. But that said, our top 50 was pretty similar. It was our back 50 where things kind of went a little haywire.
Well, what's crazy is that, this is a podcast where we're never picking their 5 best films. We're picking 5 often really good films, with only a few exceptions. So a film that I have 75th or whatever, still a really good film. So it felt like a weird list to do sometimes. Everything in the top 30 is a perfect film. So.
Yeah, and we had our biggest argument on this podcast about a film we ranked very close together.
Which one was that?
You had, I think, 7 spots higher than me, which was Ace in the Hole.
Yeah, that's crazy. That was our second 5 when we did Billy Wilder.
Yeah.
Really walked in thinking you're going to love that film, press record, and found out you did not.
Yeah, it was more that. It was more like, bashing my head against the wall of loving the film versus, did I actually think it was a bad film? No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know what I said on that podcast because it was the second 5 we did or third. So I don't really recall it all that much. But yeah, I had it 80th, I think, and I think you had it 73rd. So
yeah.
So let's get in and talk about this. We're not going to list all 100, but they'll be available on the website. But we will talk our bottom 5. And then we'll give the collective top 10 that we came up with. Whose bottom 5 do we want to lead off with?
Well, I'm looking at yours right now, so let's do yours.
Okay. So at 101, well, let's do bottom 6 because there's 101. How about that?
So you want to go from 96 to 101?
Yeah, we'll do that.
So number 96.
So number 96, I had Heat. Number 97, I had Winchester 73. Number 98, I had An American in Paris, Best Picture winner. Number 99, I had Les Cercles Rouges. And 100, I had Xanadu. And 101, I had Slacker.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this a little bit.
It's a curious amount. I'm now looking at this, and 2 from Gene Kelly 5, which was your most painful 5 for sure. Slacker was the episode that it basically is you calling the worst of cinema, and me going, I think it's fun. I'd watch it again.
It's a bad student film, it has no core, no. Listen, it's stylistic in a way where you can tell that Linklater's talented, and kind of like the way I look at a lot of people's first movies. Christopher Nolan following, not a very good movie, but I think that it shows. There, yes, it shows promise. Hard 8 or Sydney with P.T. Anderson, same thing, and Bottle Rocket with Wes Anderson too. So you get a little of that. You get those hints, and this was only different in that it was worse than those films, but I still was able to see. I was still able to see something there.
But he was
putting together something.
If you listen to that episode again, you just hear me be so worried because we did record that one in order. So it's like, oh fuck, is he gonna hate this vibe? Because I really like the rest of these films a lot. Because he hadn't seen the Before trilogy yet.
No,
I was just so nervous that like this is gonna be like this guy should have a plot.
But he does.
He does.
That's the thing. I mean, that's the thing that's lacking in Slacker. It doesn't have a plot, and it's not an exercise in that to me. Mm-hmm. It's not like it doesn't have one. Like Pulp Fiction is kind of an exercise in not having a plot. Mm-hmm. You see that exercises in not having a protagonist. Different things like that. This almost seemed like it didn't have a plot because he didn't know how to create one yet. Yeah. And then comes Dazed and Confused, where it's a movie that still doesn't have a plot, but it has characters in it, and the characterization gives enough meat on the bone for there to be a movie there, be a story. Whereas the first Slacker to me is not a story; it's a setting. And then here comes Before Sunrise, where it has the characterization, it has the style, and it has the story. It actually has the plot.
Yeah.
So in that case, yeah, and I love that film. Mm-hmm. And they both gradually increased by like 40 on this list because I had this one in the back. 40 spots later is Dazed Confused, and 40 spots later you'll run into Before Sunrise.
It's so. Before Sunrise, most random thought I just had, but I saw that new film, First Reformed, the new Paul Schrader film starring Ethan Hawke. Best film I've seen this year. It's incredible, but all the ads kept driving me nuts because they were trying to praise Ethan Hawke's performance, which he's excellent in. But one thing that's on every ad is this was the role he was born to play. I'm like, it has to be a Linklater one, right? Like those are like actually just like him on screen beautifully, right? Like
it makes you wonder if they've seen those
seen
films.
Boyhood or the four films.
So what else do we want to talk about? Because you wanted to pull out a couple movies, at least in my bottom list or whatever. I mean, go ahead.
Here's my bottom ones.
Yeah.
So look at these. It's so strange because they're all films by masters. But my number 96 is Mirror by Tarkovsky. Basically just the biggest asterisk of I don't understand the film yet. Mm-hmm. But by second viewing Andrei Rublev, actually it was my third complete click for me. So I look forward to my third viewing of Mirror. But not there yet. Then at 97 I had Contact. 98 I had Monsieur Verdoux from Charlie Chaplin. 99 The Killing from Kubrick. 100 Orson Welles' Othello. And then 101 that film that we all unanimously don't like, right? Clockwork Orange?
Yeah.
Go around the bend, everyone goes, great, bad film, no need to discuss it.
Yeah, that is a little weird for me, but I feel like in general Stanley Kubrick worked for you as a big hit and miss. When he hit, it's the biggest discrepancy. Yeah, it is because in Austin's list and our list, as you'll see, it's a Stanley Kubrick film that's number one, and then here you have a Stanley Kubrick film that's the last.
Because let's see here, you have.
I mean, I have a lot of those films you just named back there. I mean, I had Othello much higher. I was surprised you dislike Othello that much.
Yeah, I talk about the thing. Like, it just doesn't feel like. It feels like he has one arm tied behind his back. It just didn't feel like. Other films just feel like every single scene is there for a reason. It clicks. Every editing clicks, and that just felt like a mess. Plus, hard to hear.
Yeah.
Plus, blackface. And oof, I don't really want to watch this one again.
Time and place, man.
I know. But having that and touching people back to back, I'm like, okay.
I don't like taking hindsight into.
Oh sure, I put it the ranked lowly, but it was more just like how much this movie just didn't click for me. Okay. I mean, it's still one I give 2 or 3 out of 5. I don't hate it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so to me, that one was almost more shocking than A Clockwork Orange, just because I knew A Clockwork Orange was coming.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned there were some films you wanted to talk about on my list that you were surprised they were so.
Oh, you want to do that? Sure.
Yeah, because I was interested in what those were.
Well, for one thing, on the combined list, I'm just amused because it makes sense. But the last film on our combined list is Xanadu, a film that I understand is the worst film. But also, I would watch again before anything I just named.
Yeah, I mean, it's
so delightful.
And that's some of the dilemma you run into when you're evaluating this stuff, right? Is like, I mean, the last film I had was Slacker. I had Xanadu one spot above that, and that was because I'd rather watch Xanadu. Yeah, and I'm kind of with you in that regard. I could watch Xanadu right now.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't mind watching Xanadu at all. Xanadu is a bad movie.
Yes, it is.
So
it.
The fact that it entertains me doesn't.
So I kind of like that. Our worst film is still like a kindness. It isn't like a shitty on a film. It is us weirdly loving this bad movie with a bad main performance and a bad story.
Yeah, I would have more negative things to say about like Monsieur Verdeaux, for instance.
Sure.
Even though it's a better movie.
Oh, yeah.
So
well shot, interesting themes.
There's more to it than that. So you want to read the composite, and then we'll go into.
Well, I'll mention a few things on your list because they won't be brought up in our main thing. It was two that I was surprised were so low for you, and also just 3 in a row of like this is the trilogy of you being wrong with your opinions.
Okay.
Those are your number 75, 76, 77, which are Singing in the Rain, Vertigo, and A Samurai. That's it. Honestly, you're wrong about those.
Okay. So I have to get a chance to respond.
By all means.
So 75, Singing in the Rain. I think Singing in the Rain is probably the most overrated American film of all time. Vertigo. Well, because they don't sing to advance the plot. They sing to comment on the plot, and oftentimes they're not even doing that. They're just singing about wood, rain, smiles. Mm-hmm. Babies. Like, it's never really a thing. Like, it's not... You're not singing about anything that's going on. Mm-hmm. Also, the main character, you're never gonna... This isn't gonna work for me. I don't care if it is a Hollywood musical. The main character... The woman falls in love with the main character because he got her a job.
Yeah.
And she hated him the scene before that. And he was super rapey, and it was weird. And it's not hindsight, looking back. To me, it's different than the Othello blackface, because Gene Kelly is a creep in every movie he's in.
That's true.
So...
weirdly, except for Xanadu, because she's a god, like, weirdly, I don't feel as creeped out, even though, like, he is, like, 40 years older than Olivia Newton-John, but because she's a god and he's a weirdo listening to his own records, well, I don't feel creeped out to this.
That's true.
I'm not actually like judging you. It's like that's your controversial 3. That's
like
you going up against like the AFI.
Vertigo is me definitely going against the AFI,
yeah.
And that is simply because I don't think it's a good idea to explain away your wife's murder by getting her ghost to walk around and then convincing a cop that doesn't believe in ghosts to follow said ghost, and then knowing what he's going to do, so you can then plan another murder on the top, and then he's going to commit murder, and like it's so like.
But they nailed it.
Yeah,
it worked.
Like, like the plot of Vertigo is not why people love that film, and that's fine.
Yeah, it's getting you into a nightmarish dream, psychological. Am I even awake right now?
And I can appreciate that, and it's an amazing performance by Jimmy Stewart. It's just the actual, because usually the mousetrap that Hitchcock plays with usually works to perfection in a movie like Rear Window or North by Northwest. In this case, it's like, this plot is ridiculous. You couldn't predict the end because it's unpredictable.
Right.
It's literally that. And I know I'm going long on this. But like Samurai sucks because he's a bad assassin.
Yeah. But
it doesn't matter how cool he is. You're a guy that only loves people that are good at your jobs, and he's bad at his job. He's going to kill a woman in front of like 50 witnesses.
Got that key ring.
I'm not into it.
But the 2 that I was surprised I thought you liked them more than you did that were kind of low on your list. Number 52, you have Leon Morin Priest. I assume this going to be a lot higher for you. And a film that I just know that you truly love and have seen maybe a million times. Number 71, you had Batman.
Yeah, I mean, Batman is sort of the Xanadu thing, right? Like, where I
had at 79. Like, we weren't that far off. And yet, like, you can repeat the whole thing from memory.
I've seen the movie more than any movie ever, and I've had kind of a weird relationship with that movie. Batman, at first, when I first saw it, I loved it as a kid. Then, when I started getting into film, I sort of realized, oh, wait. And then, now I've kind of had a new appreciation for the film. I think it might be Tim Burton's top 2 or 3 films, and I don't think he's a very good director, but, I mean, that is saying something for a guy that's made a lot of films that people love. But, again, it's the Xanadu hat. What would I rather watch? I'd rather watch Batman versus what's a really good movie. And, by the way, once you get into the 70s and 50s, like Liam Moore and Priest, which I do think is an amazing film, they're all amazing.
They're all amazing, yeah.
So that was kind of where I was at on that. When I actually sat them down and was ranking them, and I don't even know where it ended up falling on this list, I think it was 61st, the one that surprised me how high it was for me was Witness.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, actually, I think I really liked that movie.
It's a good movie.
You know, especially looking back, thinking about it. So, for you, the one that really shocked me was how far down City Lights was at 29.
That one, it was one that I've now seen a couple of times because I've now done it on both podcasts. It's still incredible. Like, basically everything in...
It starts to get real tough.
Yeah, I think the top 40 are all 5-star films for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at least 40 up are probably all 5-star films for me. So that is the 29th 5-star film for me. And I think I have that and Great Dictator back to back just because
you can't,
I now like
put one over the other.
It was like for years City Lights so far ahead, but the more I grow older, the more I love Great Dictator because it's so complex.
Mm-hmm.
City Lights is so tragic and sad and lots to say about class, but Great Dictator is more of a pleading for humanity in a way that like you don't see from him. I like they're both really good films. That Charlie Chaplin guy.
Yeah,
good at making movies.
He's pretty good. Also, you put Maverick ahead of some films that I thought was weird, but not like totally crazy. I was a little surprised Up was so far down at 71. I was a little surprised Modern Times was so far down at 67, and a little surprised Thin Red Line was so far down at 64. Yeah. But at the same time, once you get to that 75 range, we're not... you know what I mean? These are great movies for the most part.
Also, Up is, for me, like... It's in everyone else's top 5 Pixar. It's just outside my top 5 Pixar.
Gotcha.
So I like Up, but I don't love like everyone else. But let's do our collected top 10. I'll do number 10. We'll go back and forth.
Okay.
We'll say a little bit about each one.
Well, all right. That sounds good to me, man.
Our collected number 10 film was from our very third 5. It's Akira Kurosawa's Ikaru.
Ikaru. Number 9 was Before Sunrise.
Hell yeah. Got it in the top 10. Number 8, very similar film, Star Wars.
Number 7, the only trilogy better than the original Star Wars trilogy, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, makes it to number 7.
Well, there's so many trilogies better than the original Star Wars trilogy. Go Back to the Future and Toy Story above original Star Wars.
I don't think most people will agree with you.
Well, I don't like Return of the Jedi, so like to me it's like 2 amazing films.
But most people like Return of the Jedi.
Oh, these people are... they have all their conclusions and such.
I don't think it's outlandish to say that most people prefer Return of the Jedi to at least 2 of the films in the Back to the Future canon, even though I love Back to the Future. I'm not going to get on here and start dissing Back to the Future, but you have Empire Strikes Back and Star Wars, which are essentially 2 perfect films. Mm-hmm. You followed up with Return of the Jedi, that's an imperfect film, but at least to me, a satisfying film.
Yeah.
You know, Back to the Future 3 is, to me, not as good as Return of the Jedi. It's not even close. And then Back to the Future 2 isn't. So, even though I like it, But then it gets into that whole thing of how you grade trilogies.
Right.
Like, is it the trilogy that seems like it's the most one, you know? And to me, that's Lord of the Rings, hands down. Nothing ever comes close to that.
Right. I guess my favorite trilogies before and the Toy Story films are both having, hopefully, a 4th installment coming. Yeah. So... it's weird to call them trilogies. I always forget
about the Before trilogy.
Yeah, which is also in our top 10. We love the trilogies and Ikaru.
Yeah.
Speaking of trilogies, number 6, because you just said 7, right?
Yep.
Number 6 is The Godfather Part 2.
Number 5, equally memorable score, Jaws. Underrated film. I know that seems crazy.
Yeah.
But Jaws, the movie about the monster shark, is one of the best movies of all time.
And that's what shocked, because on my list, I had it just above another film we're about to name. Because I think Jaws is the best Spielberg film, but then number 4 of our guys is Schindler's List. Those are 2 very different films.
Yeah.
One is about a man-eating shark who eats a naked lady at the beginning, and one is about a very complex character study in the middle of the Holocaust. And yet...
yet maybe the shark movie's better. In this case, it's one worse.
The 2 greatest films of all time.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre that one man can make both of those so emotional, and it succeeded as a craft.
Jaws continues to go up for me every time I watch it. Number 3, the Akira Kurosawa masterpiece that could only be defeated by the 2 films we're about to name, is Seven Samurai.
Yeah, and I had it as my number 2, because I was one like, oh, this is the perfect of a genre. This is the perfect adventure film. It is fantastic. Also, it's kind of nice just to, like, as we're in an era of, like, too many franchises, this was not made with the sequel in mind.
Nope.
At all. And that makes it even more epic because of it.
Couldn't have it.
Nope. Number 2 is Citizen Kane, because the cliche is right. it is that good. And it's... One like goes, oh, Citizen Kane. It's funny. It's the most watchable movie. It's delightful. It's heartbreaking. It's groundbreaking. It's awesome.
I think someone, I can't remember, I think it was Meg, asked me at the end of it, after I saw it for like the third time, she was like, well, is it the best movie ever made? And I go, because people say it's the best movie ever made. And I said, I won't say it's the best movie ever made, but I also won't say those people are wrong.
Yeah.
The number 1 movie of all time is the best movie ever made. With that said, 2001: A Space Odyssey. You heard me say that on the episode when it came out.
And me too, as a bit of a surprise. Like I knew when I was going to like it a lot, but in my mind, like I had that and Strangelove kind of back to back. And Strangelove kind of went down a lot in my mind. Still a really good movie, but 2001. Now also seen that again for the Immortals podcast we did like a month or so ago. I saw a Music Box. Like
I'm going to see the Music Box.
I'm going to see it again. If I'm in town, I might be talked into seeing it as well. Like because it's that good, and I shouldn't want to go see it for like a third time in the past 12 months, and yet it is. The movie came out, what, 50 years ago? The anniversary is? And yet no film has matched it in what is doing its ambition. Because, like, such groundbreaking films like The Matrix had so many copycats. No copycat, like, you can't copycat this one. Like, it doesn't work. You can have things that go, oh, you could like 2001, something like Interstellar, but you're still not pulling off
Gilded Gold. Yeah,
because you can't pull off that patience, that craft, the complete eeriness of it all, and just also go for an ending that is truly bonkers and beautiful in a way that like cinema still can't always like nail. Like it's rare, even something that I love so much, like a Tree of Life, which I high up on my list. Not even that can evoke the same kind of like visual awe of just giving into your senses and not trying to immediately figure it out in the second.
And for me, it's something as simple as saying it's just the story. Yeah, the story is just that good to me. I mean, and you can talk about what that story is, to me, but I just like this idea of, this Venn diagram of us overlapping the creator and then the creator pulling back and making something new. And what that creator is, well, that's what we're going to talk about when the film ends, and that's what we're going to be left with is this idea of these, deeply philosophical, deeply religious, deeply personal feelings you get in the film, all under the guise of a serial killing robot. Who's central to the plot in this film. It's just it's so good.
Did you? Because Christopher Nolan is the one who's made this even more restored version, kind of going back to the original.
And it
print.
is pretty much the original print.
Which is fascinating.
Yeah.
But I was reading, because he's been in a number of interviews, because he was actually at the Cannes Film Festival to show this version. Like he went there not for his own movie, but for this. And he had a comment about the scene, if that was one I never thought about in this way before. When Dave asked Hal to sing Daisy, Nolan said when he was working the film, he took it this time, his millionth time watching it, as torturing Hal. Not just to the theater, make sure like he's still like to kind of like make sure that he is turning off. He wanted to specifically like make Hal like recognize it's regressing in a way.
Losing it.
I was like, oh man, that is a dark thing I never thought about before.
It's weird. I've always seen that film as like euthanasia.
Yeah.
I've seen that part as that and something more empathetic. Almost like the way you have a kid think about something or look at something on the wall when they get a shot, at the doctor's office.
Oh, sure.
That to me has always been, just sing me that song, Al.
But on the flip side,
he's so angry. He's so angry when he comes back on that ship, and Hal knows it. He's trying to stop them.
He's killed everyone else on that ship.
That's insane. Yeah, and he's furious. But that whole idea of, that's when we realize we progressed too far, is what makes Hal human. It's because he makes a mistake. Right. The thing didn't shut down, was never going to shut down, and didn't go failure, and he was wrong. And then his hubris and these really you start to see more stuff come out. Well, I'm double downing. I'm going to double down on this, and that's when we've created life, and that is when we need to evolve again. And just like in those concepts and thematically, just total absolute brilliance under the guise of some of the greatest visuals ever created in the history of cinema, and still today, 50 years later.
So we're a fan.
So we like it.
So we're obviously excited about the next 100 episodes we're going to do. Many more great filmmakers to cover. I am right now torn between 4 filmmakers I want to do for my next 5. But next is your next 5. We announced it last episode in the bonus episode for the Terrence Malick wrap-up. Who are we covering starting on Friday?
We're covering Errol Morris. Wanted to do a documentarian. We worked with Werner Herzog a little bit, but we focused also on his other work, so pure documentarian. We'll be kicking it off with Gates of Heaven, the Roger Ebert first great film of all time. Then we'll do Thin Blue Line, and then we'll do
Brief History of Time.
Brief History of Time, then Fog of War, and then we'll wrap up with Tabloid. So I'm really looking forward to that.
It wasn't until I was typing out our notes for these episodes that I realized how weird it was to do Malick and Morris back to back, because one made Days of Heaven, one made Gates of Heaven, one made the Thin Red Line, Thin Blue Line.
That one had occurred to me. Thin Red Line and Thin Blue Line.
I was just typing those two back to back on my notes. Like, oh yeah, look what we did.
I didn't think of that. But maybe I did subconsciously with Days of Heaven. All right.
So thank you all for listening, not only to this episode, but to all the past 2 years or so of doing this. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy sitting down with a buddy and talking about the greats of cinema. And we'll be back on Friday to discuss Gates of Heaven with a cool guest, with a unique perspective from him and Eric about the film. So, until then, leave a comment on artimmortal.com, check out the other podcasts, and leave a review on iTunes. Tell your friends about this show. We do some cool stuff, and we'll occasionally just talk about 2001 regardless of what we're doing. Until next time, I'm Austin Luger.
I'm Eric Martindale.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
I'm not so much a fan of science fiction per se, as I am a fan of cinema that creates worlds, that creates an entire alternate universe that you can escape into for a couple of hours.
The first time that I saw 2001: A Space Odyssey, I was completely blown away. It made me think about mankind, the future of mankind, even the past. Where we came from, where are we going? And the special effects were absolutely magnificent. And it was a film to take seriously, not a film that was disposable.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
You could truly lose yourself in that cinematic experience, really opening up a way of looking at reality completely differently.